Hi, this is a request video from about a year ago, and I don't remember for who. Um, but it was about the impeachment, and that was a year ago. But now they're having another impeachment. So I guess this is my video talking about the impeachment. Because I'm doing videos again, because I don't huff reefers anymore. This is my first video back. I huffed reefer for the last time yesterday. Huffed a lot too. Had like this big old nugget. And I was just sitting there huffing it for like an hour because I knew it was going to be the last time I was ever going to smoke reefer in my entire life. So, anyways, that was just yesterday. Damn, dude, time flies. Anyway, all right, let's talk about impeachment. From what I know about now, whenever I talk about political stuff, I want to be a political figure so bad. I want to be an elected official. I want to be like a congressman and president because we need more politicians who think like how I do. Okay, so now what I'm talking about is whenever you're going to talk about like a legal dealio, like you're a politician, you always talk about the history. Okay, you always have to talk about where the original concept originated from and what the example that we're dealing with now has to do with that original concept and the evolution of it in order to design a more perfect union with the best constitution. So you want to talk about the history. So, the very first time it ever happened, famous times it happened, So Rome, you would talk about Rome because Rome is where all the history is. And so, and then you want to talk about precedent, which is different from history because precedent is what you've done in your particular country having to do with this law. And then you want to talk about what the law says, and then in the future, what's better, the best thing for everybody, okay? So let's talk about both impeachments. I think he needed to be impeached both times. The first time Donald Trump was impeached was because he tried to blackmail the president of the Ukraine into producing a news headline saying that they're going to investigate Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, for taking like $500,000 from Burisma natural gas company in Ukraine. And apart from what Hunter Biden did and all that kind of stuff, because, yeah, sure, if you take it separately, you could definitely use that in as example for nepotism and everything that's wrong with the politicians and stuff, but that's not what we're talking about. They're two separate subjects at hand. And that's the thing that people who love the right-wing politicians need to realize. It's called straw man argument. And those right-wingers take it way too frickin' far. Like, the last time I saw a straw man argument was when they were interviewing Marjorie Taylor Greene, asking her, why she would support the insurrection and, think that the election was rigged and all that kind of stuff. And instead of answering the question, she just turns it. And I guess that woman, Kellyanne Conway, does this too. She just turns it on the person asking the question. That has nothing to do with it. So then they'd be like, well, what about Joe Biden? It's like, well, if you want to talk to me about Joe Biden's son, Hunter, we'll do that until the cows come home. But that's not what we're talking about here. And if everybody does that, then nobody's going to have a two-way conversation with anybody. It's just going to be people yapping at each other. And the last person you want to do that is a politician, right? So, anyways, that's why I want to be a politician, because I don't do that shit. I have a YouTube video. I talk all day long about everything. At least that's what I'll start doing pretty soon. So, back to the Burisma. Forget about hired by Joe Biden. It ain't about that. What it's about, and that's because I watched the impeachment hearings. I watched all day of every single one of the first one. Not this last one, but the first one I watched. I saw that Jim Jordan with his whiny voice. And what do they think about that? Just straw manning it. Just not even communicating. Like, one of these guys is going to come up. Who is the other guy? I can't remember the other guy. His family comes from Portugal. He looks kind of Latino. Anyway, that guy was making money off of the whole Ukrainian natural gas deal. So he was going to make money from knocking down Hunter and Joe Biden for making the company that he's getting money for look bad. So, like, unbelievable corruption. So, Devin Nunes, that guy. So, and then they had that other one, Stephanie, some lady named Stephanie, a young woman, like 33, who was just like super nasty and like accusing people of mistreating her in the Senate floor. Like, you interrupted me. You can't sit, like, oh my God, acting like children. And it should be obvious that it's the Republican idiots who are acting like the children and not the Democrats. So, anyways, let's talk about the actual what Trump did. So he said, yeah, I'm not going to give you the like $40 million you need for those Tomahawk missiles to protect your country against Russian invasion unless you first, agree to do. You have to do the story first. Okay. Now let's just talk about all the levels that's wrong. Number one, common sense, history. You would never ask a person, I mean, regardless what's written in the Constitution, if you're a representative of other people, and that's what your job description is, then you're not supposed to ask the person who the person who you're doing the deal with to help the people you represent to do a personal favor for you. That's just common sense. And because it's common sense, they actually wrote it in law. It's called the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution. You can't ask for personal emoluments. And people have been busted. And so now let's get into, that was just history and the law. Now let's talk about precedent. People have been busted time and time again for doing that. They go to jail for doing that. So if you would get fired, that's not that big of a deal. They're treating like it's a huge deal because they want to fire the president. And the reason it's a huge deal is because presidents don't get fired. But why do presidents not get fired? Because they don't do crazy stuff like that. Presidents have always been high enough quality people that you wouldn't even have to do that. Now, the last time it happened, I guess it was Bill Clinton, and they did impeach him, but they didn't convict him. But all he did was lie about his own personal sex thing that he was embarrassed about. He wasn't representing the country, so you wouldn't impeach him for that. Now, the time before that with Nixon, he was impeached because he paid some people to break into his Goldwater or whoever the person who his opponent was, hotel room at Watergate to get details. And he was going to get impeached, so he just resigned instead. And so, yes, he should have been impeached for that. Like, you impeach somebody, people get fired all the time for doing bad things. Al Franken resigned because some lady said that he, like, told her she had nice tits or something like that. So, yes, the first impeachment was valid. Why was it valid? Well, for the common sense reasons I said, and also because the other side didn't have any sensible reasons. The Stephanie's reason was because she was like supposedly disrespected by her Democratic peers, which she wasn't, so she's crazy. Devin Nunes was getting paid to do that by Ukraine. And Jim Jordan was just strawmanning and would just say over and over again that you don't do it because it hasn't been done. So you're dealing with like really stupid people. So yeah, the first impeachment should have happened, and they should have convicted. Now, because they didn't convict and they do it squarely across party lines, tells you that that the people on the right are idiots. And I think this is how the two-party system comes. People on the right are total idiots. So then in order to separate yourself from the total idiots, you have to go over to the left. And there you have the two parties, the idiots and the people and the common sense. Well, then if one side is nothing but idiots, how do they exist in the first place? It's because those are the people, the rich people, who only care about taxes, not have to pay taxes. And then then they make up the story about some super passionate thing that idiots are into, like immigration and religion and religious abortion and stuff. So get them on your side, and then you can rob all their money from them. So let's get going on this next impeachment. So did he incite a riot, and should he get impeached? Obviously. I mean, I knew that was going to happen years ago. I knew they were going to jump the Capitol. So let's just rehash everything that Donald Trump said. First, he said if he loses, you don't want to piss off his followers because his followers are badasses and they'll kick your ass. And when he said that, I had the actual vision in my head of them busting down the doors of the Capitol, aimlessly thinking that they're badasses, supporters for Trump no matter what. So he's planting the seed into their head, telling him what, like Jedi mind tricking him into doing what he wants them to do. And then he said it would be wild. Well, wild, like a wild animal, like a lion jumping out of the woods and biting you? Yes, exactly. That's what happened. It was wild. That's the number one definition. So he told him to be wild. It's kind of like Charles Manson telling those women to do something witchy, be witchy, to kill the people. So, and then he wouldn't call in the National Guard for like 2 hours, and even like I guess 2 hours after they got in, he was tweeting, "This is what happens when it's unfairly and stolen from you." But it wasn't unfair, and like 60 court cases they took to the different courts, the judges, Giuliani couldn't even admit that he thought it was fraud. He was just doing it to do it for the same reason they tried to do the Burisma thing with Ukraine. What doesn't matter, according to Trump and all of Trump's followers and his teammates, it doesn't matter what the truth is. All that matters is that you get a seedling of a story, and then you just blow up on that. So if Trump had like one newspaper article written in Ukraine about how they were going to open up investigations against Biden, Trump would have just mentioned that 10 times a day, that they are doing an investigation, and they're not talking about it more because they're intimidated by Biden, and just off that one story. So with his whole election stolen thing, he hopes that it can be a seed that'll grow in, and for some reason, when they busted into the Capitol, they thought they were going to be successful. Like the woman who got maced, they said they were having a revolution. They all think they're in 1776 with a revolution because they're so passionate about their racism and their fear against China and stuff, and like livid that we have been soft on China. There's this book written by David K. Johnston, who wrote this article, a chapter in the book. We have these magnets that make missiles to kill other countries with, high-end missiles, but it was a private company, and they ended up selling the designs, giving the designs to China, and and then outsourcing it to China. Now we don't know how to make the magnets that we invented. China makes our missile magnets, that kind of stuff. So, I haven't read a book listing all the stuff China did. I like to, my next book on Audible, should be on that, or I should research it somewhere. But anyway, it makes people livid. And so when you have these politicians who don't talk about that stuff, it kind of makes you feel like they're in some kind of world cabal. Anyway, so that's what made him so angry. So, but Trump, took advantage of that. And then what did his sons? And then Giuliani said trial by fire, trial by combat. And then his son Don Jr. said, we're going to go after with the bad Republicans. We're going to have fun doing it. And then he said, hopefully Mike Pence does the right thing. If not, we'll have to show him and stuff like that. So, yes, that's what you call an insurrection. And, of course, you fire the president for that. But now one of their big arguments is, well, you don't want to fire the president because he's not the president anymore. Well, that would make sense if you're going to kind of put it into the category of just needless vengefulness. Like in ancient Rome, they exhumed an old pope they didn't like and threw the body in the river. And they did that to some of the bad leaders they had. That's going too far. That's vengeful, superstition. It just stokes the fire. But that's not what a post-presidential impeachment is. A post-presidential impeachment is to try to make sure he can't become president again. It's to try to cut the leaf in the bud. Because people are saying that now Romney said that Trump would be the nominee in 2024, and everybody thinks Trump's going to be president again in March 3rd. I heard some lady say that. And so if you impeach him, legally he can't run. If you don't impeach him, he can run, then he can become president again. And we already know his nerve has no limits. He got impeached, and then he lost, and then he said that his election was stolen, and then they proved it wasn't, and now he wants to be president again. So that's what I think about the impeachment. Yes, you impeach both times. Now Jim Jordan says, oh, but this is going to make it so that you're going to impeach anybody for everything. Good luck impeaching an actual president for doing something that normal politicians do that are way, way, way below the limits of Donald Trump. You have to remember, Donald Trump is totally different. We've never had a president like Donald Trump. We've never had a president who never held public office. It should be a law that you should at least hold one, like a congressman or a senator or something, before you become president. Because of Donald Trump, they need to make a new amendment. Because when you get just a rich dude, megalomaniac, demagogue is the best word to describe Trump. And Trump's the best word to describe demagogue. They don't have to be sane at all or common sense. All they have to do is share the same uncontrolled rage that you do, and then you're just like brainwashed. So yeah, impeach both times. And in order to keep like Donald Trump too from gaining power, like a Marjorie Taylor Greene or a Ben Shapiro or a Steven Crowder or a Milo Yiannopoulos or Greg fucking Gutfeld, the creepiest motherfucker ever. Or no, the one person creepier than him, Laura Ingraham. You have to, if you don't want these people to take over and brainwash everybody, you have to be patriotic for America and be strong, like Trump says, against China, and not give them any more fucking military magnets, and get our manufacturing going down here again. And not militarily strong. I mean, if you want to let China rampage throughout the east with their boats in their little lanes without us. That's their neck of the woods. We'll save so much money if we just come back to America and focus on the homeland. So, anyways, 20 minutes. So I should have kept this under 20 minutes. So that's what I think about the impeachment and why it was a good old thing. Oh yeah, and I do requests now if anybody wants to do one. I'm going to try to do videos all the time now that I'm sober. I need to think of stuff to talk about. Okay, talk to you later.